Context is important. What do I mean? Well, if you're going hiking, you gotta make sure you buckle your backpack. So if I just ask you what the word buckle means, that's probably the meaning that you'll identify it with. But if you hike 10 miles and it's all uphill, you might feel like your legs are going to buckle. In one context, it's to hold together. In another context, it's to fall apart. They're almost opposite meanings. My name is Paul Pasulka, Ivy Masters Learning Center at ivymasters.com. And today we're looking at Test 5, Section 1, number 52, where context is super important. 52 reads, questions in line 74 to 78 primarily serve to, what are the questions doing? So, what we see, I've highlighted the questions. Why would mental athletes be conjuring images in their mind's eye when they're trying to learn three-digit numbers? Why should they be navigating like London cabbies when they're supposed to be memorizing the shapes of snowflakes? And when you go through the answer, then you go through the answer choices, and you're like, crap, the answer's really not clear. But what we get after, and I want you to pay attention to this, is McGuire and her team asked the mental athletes to describe exactly what was going on through their minds as they memorized. The mental athletes said they were consciously converting the information they were being asked to memorize into images and distributing those images along familial spatial journeys. They weren't doing this automatically or because it was an inborn talent they nurtured since childhood. Rather, the unexpected patterns of neural activity that McGuire's fMRI turned up were the results of training and practice. So what I want you to notice is that they were converting the information into images and then distributing those images along familial spatial journeys. So basically they were taking a journey in their mind, just like a cabbie takes a journey literally in a car. So it seems like this paragraph gives an explanation to those questions. And unless you get that, then you're likely to get question 52 wrong. So if we look at answer choice for number 52, raised doubts about the reliability of the conclusions reached by McGuire. So it's not saying, hey, McGuire's study is not legit. These questions are not saying it's not legit. It sounds like they're asking questions for further research, but all they really had to do was ask the memory champs themselves, and they were able to get those answers. Answer choice B, emphasize and elaborate on an initially puzzling result of McGuire's study of mental athletes. That actually winds up being the correct answer. So how do we make sense of it? Notice this word initially is important. So those questions were asked. Why? Because at first the researchers were puzzled. They were confused about why the mental athletes their brains were responding as the cabbies' brains were. The same parts were lighting up. So it's to emphasize and elaborate on that at first what was confusing result of McGuire's study of mental athletes. And really the last paragraph goes on to elaborate, but it's asking the question to emphasize. Notice if you want to build to a point that you're making, you might ask a question about it and then answer that question. And so answer B winds up being our correct answer. Answer choice C, and keep in mind it's the best answer. We really don't get the explanation until the last paragraph. That's why it's super important to read before and after. Answer choice C, imply that McGuire's findings undermine, which means weaken, earlier studies of the same phenomenon. Well, we don't get anywhere in the passage that memory champs were studied in any other context. So if it doesn't mention the passage, we can't answer that according to answer choice C. Answer choice D, introduce and explain the connection between McGuire's two studies and her earlier work. Notice, first of all, it's saying McGuire's two studies and her earlier work. That would be the cabbies and the memory champs and some earlier work. But this just seems to be talking about the cabbies and comparing it to the memory champs, which are the two studies. She's not comparing those two studies to earlier work. Thank you for joining us today. If you like this video, click like. You can share it with someone who has trouble with these purpose questions. Anytime it says functions or primarily serve to, you've got a function question. It might just actually say that word function. If there's any question you'd like to see answered from any official PSAT or SAT or ACT, leave that in the comments. I'd be happy to shoot a video on it. And click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Have a great day.